This is Mahnaz Westerberg. Thank you very much for coming back and visiting my podcast. Today, I have Jeff Rhodes back again, simply because we had lots of questions, and now there he is. Go ahead and Jeff, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on the show again. My name is Jeff Rhodes. I've been in mortgage lending for the last 20 plus years. I work for BMO Bank. And I've spent my entire career working at big banks for the last 20 years, helping clients and purchase homes, do construction loans, and here I am today.
Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and read all the questions because these are your questions. Okay, as this is one for me. As a real estate agent professional, I have noticed significant changes in the market. And how would you describe the current state of residential market?
Well, I think the residential market today is very, very challenging. It's very competitive, especially in where we live. For so many years, the interest rates were so low, and they've gone up high enough that people are afraid to leave their homes and move on to a new property. And I think that that's causing quite a few challenges in the market for realtors, for loan officers, even for people, because they can't move on to the next phase of their life because they're afraid to go in and get a mortgage that is, at a higher rate, even if it's traditionally at the average rate of what it's been over the last 30, 40 years. They're still decent rates, but just nothing like they were a few years ago.
I know, but the interest rate that was so low before, that was unheard of for years and years and years. It was 30 years? We never had such a low interest rate.
We've never had such low interest rates, and it's I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I mean, to be in the twos on a 30-year fixed, and that was almost anybody that needed to get a loan at that time could get it in the twos somewhere, is unbelievable. I don't know how they're making money off those loans that they still have, but yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see that again. They do seem to be trending down, but I just don't know exactly where it's gonna land.
Would you agree with me that what is important is that the people that they bought their houses 30 years ago, 20 years ago, with the interest, I remember interest rate of 18%.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that?
I do.
And those properties' value is unbelievably changed. And that was a great investment for them, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Therefore, as you said before, it's not about interest rate. It's about getting the opportunity to get in the market and buy your dream home.
Exactly.
All right. The next question is, given the competitive nature of today's market, what advice you have for buyers to improve their chances of acquiring loan?
I think clients definitely need to go out and get pre-approved. I think that they need to work with a trustworthy lender to be able to, that can help them get into the property that they want. But I do think that actually going through the process, getting your W-2s, getting all your pay stubs, and actually figuring out what you can afford. And just because you can afford something doesn't mean that you want to afford that. So I think it's a matter of getting comfortable, understanding what your max ceiling is for purchase power, and then also understanding and coming to grips with what you're comfortable paying for that mortgage. Because those are two different things that I think people underestimate.
It's very important. As a first question, I always ask my client, the question is for you, what kind of payment you're comfortable with? What is your dream? If you want to travel around the world and you want to have a small house and that's your budget, I need to know. If you want to spend more of your money in a house, I need to know. It's really up to you and your comfort level.
Absolutely.
Would you agree with me?
Absolutely. I mean, we can do a lot of things. A lot of banks can. There's a lot of different products, from ARMs to fixed rate products, but just because we can offer you something doesn't necessarily mean you should take it.
That's correct. Now, that was another question that I had for you, and you almost answered that. I have encountered many clients who are unsure about the different type of loan. Can you a little bit elaborate on that for me?
Yeah. I put loans into 3 different categories and some subsets on top of it, but in essence, you have conforming loans, there's super conforming loans, and they're jumbo loans. And inside the conforming today is 0 to 766, 750, I believe.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Explain what conforming is. Just explain.
So a conforming loan is a, in our area is one of the smaller loans that are out there, and they're backed by the government. So they're backed by Fannie and Freddie. And so that's the conforming is the $0 to $766,000.
No more than that.
No
right?
more than that.
Okay, that's important.
And then they also have another category also done by Fannie and Freddie, which is the 766 to $1 million something today. Those are both backed by Fannie and Freddie, and you'll hear a lot of banks that'll go use Fannie and Freddie as their guidelines.
But the reality is, can we buy any of those in this area?
If you have enough money to put down, of course.
Okay, all right. That's the loan amount.
Yes.
That's important. Just go ahead.
So, and then above the super conforming loan limit is jumbo. And jumbo, there are all types of things for jumbo also, right? It's anywhere from jumbo to people say super jumbo. Most bankers just say anything over the super conforming loan limit is a jumbo, because it doesn't matter if it's $1.2 million or a $30 million loan. It's a jumbo loan one way or another. How
do you get qualified for any of those? How do you qualify? If I come to you tomorrow and say, I want to buy a $3 million house, what is the process I have to go through just because I want it? Am I going to get qualified?
Well, that's a great question. I don't know if you're going to get qualified.
I'm hoping that I would.
You have to fill out an application. You have to send in all your income documents, tax returns, W-2s, your brokerage accounts, bank accounts. We have to take a big picture of what you can do to qualify you. So then we'll run your credit, and hopefully you have a good credit score. Not everyone has a good credit score. Anything above 720 is good, but most banks really like above 740, 760 is excellent. And most banks won't go, if you're below 700 credit score, they will not or do not want to give you a jumbo loan.
My question for you is, what are the questions that you have for me as a buyer? What do I need to provide? If I tell you all those questions, the questions that you have answered on the phone, would that be good enough for you?
Well, that's a great question. So I might ask you personally. I will ask my clients all those questions. Where do you work? How much money do you make, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll take notes and write it down, but I don't believe any of it until I see it. So I actually have to see what it is that you have and what shows up on your W-2s, because I've had it several times where a client will say, hey, I make $500,000 a year. And then when I get their tax returns, it's 120. So that's just a huge discrepancy. So I just go based on the actual facts rather than the hearsay of just listening to what they have to say.
I totally agree. One of the things I always do when I speak with my client buyers, I make sure they provide the lender all the information. Often my client, they come in and they already have a lender, which I love to work with them. There is absolutely no way that I would write any offer for them unless I speak with the lender. And the first question I ask, did you see all documentation? Without those documentation, you cannot promise them. Sometimes some lenders promise them, and they also promise the low rate. But when it comes to writing offer at that time, the rate is much higher, and they're not going to be qualified. And they're going to be in trouble. They're going to be losing their down payment.
And they're wasting time. They're wasting your time. They're wasting the lender's time. They're wasting the seller's time. Clients really need to go, I think they really need to go full doc, and a good loan officer will go through every piece of data and make sure that they do qualify.
They do. Can you tell me a little bit about credit score? If I come to you and you run my credit and tomorrow I go to somebody else, how would that impact my credit?
Well, that's a good question, and we're not supposed to answer that question. We're not the credit bureaus, so I can just tell you what my experience is, but I can't really advise you, but I'll tell you what I tell my clients. I do tell my clients, if you are looking to purchase a house, typically if people pay down their credit cards and get the utilization to below 20-25% or at zero, then that helps their credit score jump up. Some people have a ton of debt and they may or may not qualify if it's a tight deal. They may want to pay off some of their credit cards first, and that usually helps the credit score go up. So there are some things that people should take into account when they are going to a bank or a broker to get pre-qualified. And then to answer your other question, should you be getting qualified by 2 or 3 different lenders, I think is kind of the question that you're asking. And of course, you should just go to me. But if you don't, if you're going to do it, go to 1 or 2 different people that you trust. I always think that you should go to at least 1 or 2 banks, or 1 bank and 1 broker, because the brokers have a really good line. They have some great products that banks don't have. But if you want the best rate especially like on a jumbo loan, I don't think anybody can beat the banks that are out there today. And then you just got to go, who do you know, like, and trust? You actually have to trust these people, and rates are they're pretty close no matter where you're at. So the big banks, the rates are pretty close to the same. I think they're significantly lower than some of the brokers, and sometimes they're significantly lower than other banks. But for the most part, BMO versus a Wells Fargo, for example, we might be an 1/8 better. We've been an 1/8 better probably for the last few months, but what's an 1/8 is only an 1/8. It's still pretty close.
That's right. We are looking at an investment, a long-term investment. That's what we are looking at. We are looking at increased value and the market value. That's what we are looking at. But what is the most important part is that you want to have a relationship with somebody. You want to trust the person. There are often, I'm writing an offer. If the lender is not available at 11 o'clock at night, hey, guess what? We can make him